Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I am here today to talk about a film for 31 Days of Horror, and it is Don't Breathe. Don't Breathe. Don't Breathe. This was written, or co-written, and or directed and co-written by Fede Alvarez, and the other co-writer is Rodo. Wow, Sayagues? Not sure on that. As always, links down below to the IMDb page where you can check out the full details. The cast for this includes Lexi, Dylan, Minnett, who I totally thought was someone else. I knew I recognized him, but I totally misrecognized him. And it also stars Danielle Zoratto and Stephan Lang. This came out in 2016. It is definitely a horror movie, but it is very much also a thriller and arguably a crime film. I gave this, I gave it a 9 out of 10, but I'm gonna bump that down to 8.5 out of 10 and 4 out of 5, and I'm not giving this one a heart because although it was very good, it's hard to say that I enjoyed it because of some of the things that happened in it that were very disturbing. So this is one of those challenging titles. I don't know if you ever go through this too, where you recognize its brilliance, but you didn't necessarily enjoy the viewing experience. But wow, it was very powerful and very well done, and it was definitely a horror blind spot title for me. Like when this came out, the just the people I know who enjoyed it, that I really respect their opinion. I just had a feeling that I knew that I had to see this one at some point. And I think, trying to remember if Luke Ryan watched this during his last 24-hour movie marathon. I think I remember it coming up, and so that made me put it as a priority, and here we are like a year later. But I did end up seeing it. So thank you, Luke, for watching it and recommending it, because it really is brilliant. So this one is, it's so challenging on so many levels. So it follows three sort of small-time-ish crime folk, who often burgle houses, and it's set in Detroit, and they end up deciding to burgle the house of a man who is blind, so they think it will be easy. So we're already in the land of assumptions. He won a lot of money, and so they figure it must be in the house, so they decide to do this. And they've been very strategic up until this point, but they have this heist, we see this in heist films all the time. This one last, oops, I'm sorry, I'm not connected to the internet, but I already have the image up, so it's okay. Hopefully I won't get that message again. Anyway, but they have this sort of theme of one last heist, we can do this. Yeah, it's worth the extra push, but wow, are they in for quite a surprise. This is one that I'm not going to get into the specifics about it because I was glad that I didn't know anything about it, and like this is the image I always see for it, and there was other ones that I could have picked, but I think I'm going to stick with this one. I did decide to stick with this one because I think it is one that it's better to go in not knowing too much about it, because so much of the impact of the film is the changes in, not necessarily change in pace, but it's like you kind of like, it's a horror, well, I knew it was a horror movie or a thriller, and so you're expecting things to go wrong, but like it just like it just kept on one-upping. Like it just kept on thinking it couldn't get more tense, and it did, and it did, and it did, and it did, just again and again and again and again. Oddly, this movie kind of, maybe because it's set in a house and stuff, it kind of reminded me of The People Under the Stairs, which I actually haven't seen for a fair number of years, but was very much a Halloween tradition in my family to watch that on Halloween. But I think it was always like the last movie, so I usually saw like the first half hour and then fell asleep because after all the other movies. And so it kind of reminded me of that, but that has an element of sort of like over the top comedy in a weird way to this, and this was not comedic. This was a very, very level, and I found it very disturbing. And I think that's why, for me, I'm gonna bring it down to 8.5, and it isn't gonna hurt, especially because there was a couple of things that I found so disturbing that were gender related. I wouldn't say they're gender crap, but they're gender related. A couple of things that were particular in terms of that element that I found so disturbing that I felt like if anyone uses that idea ever, that's like, no, 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 no. And I know different people are like, it's just a movie and stuff like that. But, you know, if anyone uses that idea, like, that's really, really horrific. So that's why it doesn't break that barrier for me. But I thought that there were really interesting dynamics between the characters, and there was really great tension, and the story was brilliant. And like, the tension in this film is just, it's astonishing. It really, really is astonishing. I was on the edge of my seat, not literally, but I was like worried for the characters for the entire time. And it is quite dark because you are dealing with, like, you're dealing with people who are doing something wrong from the onset, right? Like, they're stealing. That is their goal, is to steal money from a blind man. So, like, that's not a great, I also don't find that I connect very much to films where I don't have empathy for characters. But I do actually have empathy for everyone. But what they're doing is not like, it's like stealing from anyone is wrong, but that's the setup of the story, is that you're following these three people who are small-time-ish criminals deciding to, like, go for that one last heist kind of idea. And so, I'm not saying I don't have empathy for anyone who's down on their luck or anything like that, but it's like the moral scale here is like out the window, because no one is doing anything like, like, it just makes things very complicated, but yet nobody deserves to have the things happen in the film happen to them, like anyone. So it was just like, for me, that's just like, I can watch a movie like this. Like, I can watch sort of like one every year, maybe. And I'm glad that it was one that was of this quality, and that I can rate this highly. But I don't find films like this generally super enjoyable or rewatchable. I just find the tension is too high, and some of the things are too disturbing. And so it makes it hard to recommend outside horror fans, of course, who generally love it. So, like, it's one of those weird situations that it's brilliant, but I don't tend to recommend it to people who don't like horror. But that can happen in any genre, right? Like, I think there's the ones that are more malleable for, like, everyone, and then there's the ones that really are sort of like the champion of their own genre. And this one doesn't claim to be anything other than horror. But again, it's this sort of idea of like, it's more people versus people, which again is one of my lesser enjoyed subgenres of horror. So I got to make sure I work in some haunted house movies or something like that, because it's really brilliant. It's got a mostly contained location, and the acting is really good. It's fine. Dylan Minnett is actually, he was in Open House, which is a Netflix original film. Wasn't that great? And I did watch that last year. But I really thought he was someone else. So anyway, so there you go. Don't Breathe. Did you enjoy it? Do you like films like this? I noticed at the top this time around, it said from the creators of Evil Dead, which I don't know if that would have been helpful going in, because that's also, again, just not a series that I've enjoyed, but it's just that's just personal preference. And for me, I'm glad I saw this one. I'm glad I know what the hoopla is about. I'm glad I saw it without hearing any spoilers. So I am happy about all of that, but I think I'm going to make sure that I don't watch too many films like that throughout the 31 Days of Horror. I think one of that sort of ilk is enough, and I'm glad it was one of that quality. So there you go. There are my thoughts on Don't Breathe. Let me know if you have seen it. And if you have any haunted house movie recommendations. I know that is like not what I watched here, but it is something that I always enjoy. So yeah, there we go. Don't Breathe. I made it through.